I learn something all the time. That's great. Really enjoyed the Water Resources Committee. So thank you all for that. Always very informative, good conversation. So thanks. I know it takes a lot of time to prepare all those things. And thanks also for the notice at the top of the website. That's great. I've been reading comments online, and people are, particularly, I think it's ABC, whatever channel that is, 579, I don't know what it is, but they've been covering it a lot, and they had a guy out there, and he's like, and he's talking about this. He's like, you can taste it, and he's got this microphone, and he's out there by thing, and you just see all people's comments, and they're like, how come nobody's talking about this? How come there's no information? Is our water safe? Question mark. We don't, so people are just uncomfortable, and I'm glad. And again, it's on the Maryland side. It's not expressly in our county, but I'm just glad that there's at least a little something there. If somebody clicks on our website, that it can direct them there. So thank you all for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Kelly?
I will just echo our fellow board members' comments and thank the staff and hope everyone came through the Snowcrete. What's it called? Fern? Is that what the name of the storm was? Storm Fern? Okay. And thank you for all that. And the Water Resource Committee was well done. Appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Mr. Bonfils, you online?
I am. I'm here. In San Diego, at a Navy conference. So to echo what everyone has said, I appreciate all of the work that went into the two meetings, the audit and the research committee meeting on Monday, and I appreciate everyone attending. It was very well done. Lots of great information has been reflected in the comments, and wish everybody a really good 3-day weekend. And you don't have to buy a mattress, but you could go find a deal on it if you wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonfils. Mr. Sultan.
I'd like to say I'm real thankful for getting reappointed. And one of the things that's interesting, when I first started on this board, with all the years of experience, I thought I'll come in here and I'll straighten this place out. And I found out rather quickly that the person that had to get straightened out was me. This is an excellent staff, and I have the background to be able to evaluate that. And my God, you guys are really good, not only professionally, but personally. And I'd like to also mirror the Water Resources Committee. Was fascinating. The knowledge that Kendra had just blows me away. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Sultan. Boy, it's tough to follow all these comments, but I will once again use the word echo, which is a very popular word. Everyone else has said them. It's I am sick of the cold weather. You can last about 2 months. 2 months is almost up. And then obviously, Marty, welcome back. It's official now. And Mr. Bonfils, I know you were official last month, but welcome back as well. It's great to have you two on for another 4 years. That's all I have. Oh, Valentine's Day. If you have a secret admirer, keep it to yourself. No, get some flowers and candy, and that's all I have. General Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also wanted to take this opportunity to thank all the staff who worked during the winter storm to ensure that our systems were able to operate successfully in spite of the weather. Your dedication is very much appreciated. I wanted to let the board know that staff is planning an upgrade to the boardroom audio visual equipment over the next 2 months, including, among other items, the projector, screens, and cameras. Work is scheduled so as not to impact any committee or board meetings. The transition should be seamless to members of the board and public who watch the meetings online. And I'm very pleased to announce that for the 38th year in a row, Loudon Water has received the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our 2024 ACFR. So big thanks to Sally Deller, Donna Kovalyak, Sue Crosby, and Mike Beardsley and their teams for another successful report. I did want to provide a brief update on the DC Water PI spill that Mr. Campbell mentioned. On January 19th, a portion of the Potomac Interceptor collapsed along Clara Barton Parkway and the 495 interchange in the C&O Canal National Historic Park. DC Water staff and contractor worked around the clock to install bypass operations and divert the sewer flow into the canal, where it is then being rediverted back into the PI. DC Water is investigating the collapse and determining next steps on how to repair. As Kendra mentioned during the meeting on Monday, they did find large rocks within the pipe now, and so they're working to excavate those. DC Water is also in the early phases of investigating the environmental impacts and working with federal and state partners on what remediation efforts may entail. And as Mr. Campbell mentioned, we have updated our website with information ensuring that folks know their water is safe to drink. February 22nd through 28th is Engineering Week. During this annual event, the academies of Loudoun welcome industry professionals to share insights with high school students regarding the real-world impacts of engineering. Loudoun Water staff Garen Deldart and Anurang Mantha will engage with students at the Academy of Engineering and Technology. And so a big thank you to all of our engineers here at Loudoun Water. Through January, we had 456 ERCs added to our system. We will be closed on Monday, February 16th, in observance of President's Day. And for your committee meetings this month, Finance Committee is scheduled to meet on Wednesday, February 25th at 8 a.m. And CIP Committee will meet on Thursday, February 26th at 8 a.m. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brian. Gabby, do we have anyone signed up to publicly speak? Thank you. With that, someone make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Board committee action, Mr. Kelly, audit.
We met this week with the auditors from YHB. They've already commenced their work for 2025 audit. It's going to go a little faster this year than it has in the past. The audit this year will also include, as it has in the past few years, a single audit, which members may remember is required when an entity such as Loudoun Water exceeds more than $1 million in federal funds. This is a combination of state and local fiscal recovery funds and a FEMA pre-disaster mitigation grant. Loudoun Water has exceeded the $1 million threshold. So a single audit is separate from the financial audit. It's a requirement when we receive those kind of funds. The additional audit requires consistent verification and compliance of grant requirements, a schedule of federal awards, and submission of data directly to the federal audit clearinghouse at completion of the audit. I'll just remind the members that in the past, you had to do an audit for each governmental entity. So the single audit brings all that together so you can do it just at one time. Typically, the auditors seek input from the committee members on any functional area they may want to see reviewed in greater detail during the audit process. This year, it was suggested, not by the committee, but by Sally, that maybe when you look at the S4 implementation and access, and that was discussed. The only other item that was brought up, not for recommendation, but just discussed, the question came up as to whether or not Loudoun Water, its size, would warrant having an internal auditor, even some on staff, or hiring an outside firm. No recommendation was made. We just took that into consideration, and I don't think that honestly will really go anywhere. The audit should be completed probably around the end of April, beginning of May. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Sultan, CIP.
We have 4 items. First one is approval of design service task order for Paonian Springs Community Water and Wastewater System Design. The community of Paonian Springs applied to the Community Water and Wastewater Program for assistance to address their water and wastewater issues. Subsequently, the Board of Supervisors approved advancing plans to interconnect Paonian Springs with Waterford. This task order authorizes the engineer to proceed with the necessary design to accomplish that task. The committee recommended that the board approve an award of design task order to Dewberry Engineers for $1,762,000 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $1,850,000 to be included on the consent agenda. I do have a question. We say approximate 5% contingency. I know we discussed this once before, but when you say approximate, that means there's no contingency, no limit to contingency, because it could be 10%, it could be. I think we should not discuss it now, but I think we should discuss the wording, because approximate kind of negates the 5%, unless somebody remembers we had a discussion.
So sometimes we say approximate because we're just kind of rounding up to the nearest 1,000 or 100, and it may be like 5.1 or 4.9. It's not meant to be above, kind of around 5%.
It's okay
Does
with
that
me,
make
it's
sense?
just that the wording technically leaves you open. But we can discuss that some other time. I'll just mention
But
it.
the dollar value is really what we're managing to.
Yeah, we're
Like the
managing to-
total that's in the motion, that's really what we're managing to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it just seemed when I was reading it, it seemed like it was not, it's concise.
I saw that, Marty, too. In the next item, it says 5%. It doesn't say approximate, just 5%. It's a hard number, so.
I put the word approximate in the review. Okay, the next item is approval of the construction phase services for the Milestone Reservoir Pump Station, operational phase services for Arcadis. This project, as you know, involves the use of an existing mined-out quarry designed to increase water supply for Loudon Water's customers. Arcadis is the design engineer of record for the project under a standalone professional services contract. An amendment for operational phase engineering services is proposed. The committee recommended that the board approve an amendment to Arcadis's contract for engineering services during construction in the amount of $2,963,287 with I use the word approximate, with a 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $3,111,350 to be included on the consent agenda. The next item was approval of the design service task order for the Broad Run wastewater reclamation facility, Phase 3 expansion, design task 3. Design task 3 includes the design of the third construction package of the Phase 3 expansion program. The design includes improvements necessary to increase the overall capacity to 20 MGD. The committee recommended the board authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer for an estimated not to exceed cost of $8,700,000 with approximate 5% contingency for a total authorized budget of $9,135,000 to be included on the consent agenda. The fourth and last item was award of construction contract, ammonia upgrades, progressive design build project, phase 2. This project includes improvements of the Waterford, St. Louis, and Alzian Heights wastewater treatment plants to comply with forthcoming DEQ ammonia removal regulations and replace aging assets. Phase 2 costs include the completion of phase 1 design, permitting, and all construction services. The committee recommended that the board approve a progressive design build contract with Clark Construction Group for a cost of $58,398,984 with an approximate 5% contingency for a total not to exceed $61,318,000 to be concluded in the consent agenda.
No, that's not, that's going to be on action, Marty.
Yeah, that's going to be an action item, but that's what was approved by the committee. We also heard a CIP committee work plan. It was very ambitious, detailed a lot of thought and planning. At my request, I asked, how did this work last year? How much of the plan was accomplished? And I was told about 50%, but most of the things that were not done were beyond Loudon Water's control. Contractors changing their programs, things of that nature. But I just wanted to get an idea of how accurate it was. And I was assured that staff is eyeing manpower needs if necessary for this ambitious program. And the last item was the capital spending summary report that indicated that spending was 91% of forecast. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Bonfils.
Yes. We had the Resources Committee met this past Monday. The information is available online for review. Many of our board members were there in person and I think one or two were online. So I appreciate that. And I've noticed all the comments that we've had. PFAS is and PFOA is it is making its way into a lot of spaces, and we need to watch what's going on with our regulators. We talked in detail about some of the proposals that are going on down in Richmond, and our representatives there are tracking it. So hopefully at our next board meeting, we can have an update on that. And so that's a report on that committee meeting. It was a very good meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Bonfils. Consent agenda, would someone make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Action agenda. Back. Kinsey gets another shot at this. Mr. Kelly had some questions about it. He's obviously on finance. He did not get to see the presentation. So we discussed this Monday after the resource meeting. We thought we'd pull it off of consent and put it on action and go through it once again. So without any further ado, Mr. Downs.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can I get the clicker? All right, good afternoon, Board. Thank you as always for having me. I am here to present the design build contract amendment for the Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project. Today's agenda, we'll probably do a little shorter version than the CIP, but we do have a couple additional slides. Project background and drivers. I discuss progressive design build, structure, and process. Talk about phase 2 and the construction contract fee, and finally the recommended motion. So what is the driver for this project? Virginia implemented ammonia limits for small wastewater facilities. This move complies with an EPA requirement to protect aquatic life in the receiving stream of these small facilities. Permits will include this new limit starting with the 2023 permit renewal cycle, and this regulation affects all of our small surface discharging wastewater treatment plants. Our approach, pretty simple: systematically review and understand upgrades, group facilities by permit renewal dates, find a solution that complements the approach and our resources. That also includes maybe our human resources, right? The project managers we have. And finally, all affected sites are captured in the CIP. The document here's a quick pictures of all of our sites. St. Louis, Waterford, and Elysian are under this project, which is COMP 76. And Aldie and Raspberry Falls is under COMP 60, which has future spending in the CIP. I want to acknowledge that this regulation did not catch us by surprise. We have tracked it in the CIP for a while and have delayed other facility needs to complement this larger project. Extending assets' life to meet parallel goals is not new or unusual, and I want to stress that these sites have not had any significant capital spending in the near term through the CIP. Here is our PDB contractual relationship circle. We are the owner naturally. We have a direct contract with the design builder, which is Clark Water and Dewberry, and we have a professional advisor services with Black & Veatch. They are contracted directly with us. They're kind of our representative and with no direct relationship with Clark or Dewberry. The PDB process is multi-step. First, the board approved using PDB in 2022. This led to selecting a design build entity. This is a two-step selection generally based on qualifications. Next, staff returned to the board in 2023, recommending agreement with Clark for phase 1. Phase 1 is the design phase of the PDB and it is now complete. And today we're requesting a contract amendment for phase 2 with the phase 2 fee. This fee will take us through construction. Naturally, stepping into the PDB process and the design, we had some kind of goals for ourselves. Loudon Water's goals were remove the lagoons from service. They were old, they're pretty large, they have bentonite lining, and we thought it's best to get them out of service. They're also not very good for some of the regulations we're trying to achieve. And we want to match treatment technology between the two new facilities, keep it simple for staff, make sure we have similar processes and products. We did, in setting ourselves up for success, use the EPA guidance on maybe future ammonia limits. Keep in mind that kind of showed us seasonal restrictions that we had to treat to. Both facilities had single-digit ammonia needs, which kind of pointed to full nitrification from our design team. And finally, we did 2 due diligence steps as a confirmation to kind of confirm we were on the right track. Before the PDB, we worked with Black & Veatch on an alternatives evaluation in June of 2021, and they decided that SBR technology meets our limits And it's the best cost and the most reliability from a cost standpoint for the treatment options. And finally, since Black & Veatch was not the design engineer, we asked Dewberry through the design build contract to do a second evaluation, and they recommended SBR with tertiary filtration to meet our limits at Waterford and St. Louis. This project is complicated. Just to put it out there, 3 sites, 2 new facilities, and maintenance of plant operations. Stepping through some of the components by the site. Waterford is in a new treatment facility, almost greenfield for the most part. Influent pump station, primary screens, the SBR treatment process, tertiary filtration, UV disinfection. Keep in mind, a lot of these components have primary and redundant aspects of it. And during construction, we need to maintain plant operations. At the end, we need to abandon these lagoons. We need to dredge them out, and we need to backfill them to grade. St. Louis project site looks a lot like Waterford, new facility with advanced treatment process, primary screens, sequencing batch reactor, tertiary filtration, and UV disinfection. Receiving stream requires more stringent limits at this site. So instead of a couple treatment trains for the process, we'll have 3. St. Louis is generally considered a dry ditch. Maintenance of plant operations is a little more complicated here at St. Louis because the new facility will be going into a footprint of one of the existing lagoons. And finally, lagoon abandonment, removing solids and filling it to grade. Elysian is pretty much the simpler of the scopes. We're going to make some facility process modifications and upgrade our instrumentation out there. We're going to convert from a chlorine disinfection system with a UV, get rid of that chemical kind of hazard for staff, go to a more physical process, and demolition the existing chemical feed system and contact tank. And with that, we're going to look to replace most of our instrumentation, which includes the panels and the instruments and devices, as well as conduit and wires. Phase 2 costs are highlighted on this slide. The costs are approximately $58.4 million. We looked at it 2 different ways. One is by task. Construction packages are approximately $40 million. Engineering services by Dewberry is roughly $4 million. GCGR's insurance and bonds, the administration of the work is $14 million. And allowances, which is just a trigger for Loudon Water for some of these aspects we couldn't fully define in the 90% design, is $615,000. If you take that and you kind of break it down by site, which is one of the benefits of the PDB, Waterford is $27 million, St. Louis is 26, and Elysian is approximately 5.2. So this is a new slide. I just want to highlight that breaking it down by site a little further and showing some of the components, we want to show what drove cost. So if you look at the Waterford 27 million, you can see that most treatment components are not driving that total number. And a lot of it is handled in that building and earthwork line item. Keep in mind, earthwork includes all buried, non-processed work. We've clumped in this site utilities, duct banks, as well as the general site grading, excavation, and backfill for all structures. This includes lagoon excavation and backfill, as well as seeding and landscaping. We worked with Clark to understand how much fill needs to come into the site. And St. Louis requires about 7,200 cubic yards, I'm sorry, and Waterford is 16,700 cubic yards. This is not a balanced site. We need to bring dirt in. So keep in mind, earthwork does include that lagoon demolition. That is pretty complicated. And finally, project costs are not treatment components driven. Earthwork, floodplain considerations, and building costs drive that total number. Hopefully I put some weight behind that earthwork number, and I just clumped it mainly to show that the treatment process, treatment components are not the big driver here.
So Kinsey, there's a lot more earthwork at Waterford than St. Louis?
Yes. In St. Louis, we were able to kind of use the lay of the land in the final grading, where Waterford is almost slightly flat, but it's just enough that we to bring things and then make the treatment plant work and then to fill in the lagoons.
Since they're both about the same price, is St. Louis have some other things like rock or something else that needs to be dealt with?
St. Louis is just a larger facility, and it's also 3 lagoons, but it's not the same cost as Waterford because we were able to make some different choices when it came to the facility building, as well as there's no influent pump station. So that's roughly that $1 million you see, right?
But the 15 mil in earthwork on St. Louis, that's because there's 3 that have to be filled in?
Correct.
And Waterford just has 1?
2.
2, okay. Great. Thank you.
CIP project snapshot, this is under a COM 76. In the 10-year CIP, it does have $60 million in it. And that is the last slide before the recommendation. Any questions or discussion?
Does anyone have any questions for Kinsey? I have one comment. I was surprised when you added this slide just for the standpoint that the earthworks was such a large percentage of the project. And I went and did some research about, what is it? The SB, whatever the treatment is called, and posed the question, if you have a $4 million treatment plan and you're starting from scratch, what percentage should earthworks be of the project? And they came back with, 8 to 10% as being low and 15 to 20 as being medium, and extremely high was 25. You look at these and they're 50 and over 50. So, and then some of the mitigating factors can be, if there's a lot of sludge that needs to be removed and things like that. So why is it so high as a percentage of the project?
So I guess a couple things, right? The lagoons, there's a lot of risk. We did put money into design to figure out the amount of sludge, but I think that is maybe a tricky part to try to nail down. Second, we can pull forward. It's not, these are fully burdened numbers, but the earthwork itself in a form of grading is, I got it in front of me right now, 1.5 million for Waterford, 2.3 for St. Louis, and 178 for Elysian. So I think us putting in the kind of aspects of the job that is a greenfield, the duct banks, running new electrical lines, the chemical lines, the on-site pump stations, that kind of skews that number higher than it is. But these are tricky sites. These are greenfield sites. And then of course, when you go turn around on the other side of that, you have the demolition of the old facilities, which is the buildings and their process equipment, and the lagoons. It just all adds up. It's like two separate projects.
Well, I guess it is what it is. So they say. Mr. Vega?
Have there been any studies to kind of a sensitivity analysis as to how high or how low we need to grade these sites? Why do we need to have them flat? Why couldn't it be a depressed area or a vernal pool or a stormwater thing so that we don't have to import $15 million worth of dirt?
So when we were going through the design, we did evaluate ways that we could slope the site to be a benefit to the project from that perspective. And one thing we came up against was that we're so close to the floodplain that the county preferred that we filled it to grade, not to affect it and to trigger other floodplain studies. That, and in addition to DEQ's guidance for lagoons, does require fill to level the grade.
But how many feet of fill are we doing? Are we doing 10 feet of fill or 3 feet of fill? I mean, why does it need to be back to?
It's just that's how we interpret the guidance. So I don't know.
Well, I was going to actually shift gears slightly and mention another component of this that we ran into about 12, 13 years ago. In order to keep the Waterford facility operational, we went in and did some work on our own to dredge the lagoons and try to remove some of the sludge that had accumulated over the decades. And in today's dollars, we spent probably along the lines of $2 million pulling some sludge out, not all of it, and handling it and disposing of it. And so if you were to extrapolate that out, to the volume of sludge that's there that we need to take out today, that is, I think, contributing to what Kinsey is pointing out is embedded in the cost of, the $15 million here. A good bit is going to be handling that sludge and properly disposing of it. But I don't know, the existing lagoons are 10, 12 feet deep roughly.
With that, yeah.
And so it was predominantly filling those to grade.
I mean, what are the things that we could control? Does it have to be control fill? Does it have to be suitable, unsuitable? Can it be organics? Can it be, it just seems like there's an opportunity here to.
We are going to ask the contractor to dewater as much of the existing material as possible and use that as fill before importing others. That's the best thing that we can do.
Because when you think of the contract that we have on the Broad Run for the earthwork is less than this, and it's a much larger area and it's a lot more.
Right. And I think what maybe we're regretting a little bit is lumping so much into that earthwork number. So you can't compare Broad Run's $12 million to that number because that is just leveling grade. There is no piping. There is no electrical duct bank, right? That would be millions and millions and millions more had we actually put the infrastructure in under the ground. So this is moving earth and underground infrastructure lumped together, which makes it hard to compare to some of these other packages.
So the number could be lower.
The earthwork number itself, I think you said was like
Yeah,
1.5 million. Of that 15 million,
Okay.
we just have what unfortunately the contractor also considers in his earthwork package is the installation of that underground infrastructure. But if it does help, I mean, the package was bid out against the market, so it is a competitive number for the work that we do need done.
So this reflects actual bids from earthwork contractors?
Correct.
If you itemize it to another level, lower level, then actual element, if we call earthwork, would probably be less.
And I mean, again, back to your question, Mr. Vega, I see what you're getting at. You know, was there some value engineering applied to, could we just kind of take down the embankments that are the north ends of the lagoons and just kind of feather things out to grade? I think I see what Kinsey's getting at as well, you know, with the floodplain overlay and our site being, you know, constrained with its northern limits and the adjacent property owner. I don't know if, I'm assuming those factored into what you're.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is if it's an import situation, and that's what I think I heard you describe, is cutting in the floodplain is not as problematic as filling in the floodplain. So having it be a low-lying area doesn't seem to be
Mhm.
in conflict with floodplain ordinances, in my mind.
Yeah.
Just additional storage area and the floodway fringe.
We are outside of it, but we're next to it. So I think that was one of the problems we had. We did evaluate that and we just didn't get much traction with county staff.
Staff. Just my own education. Progressive design build, difference between that and design build, what is the word, progressive?
It's just the
Why?
contract mechanism. So we contracted with the design build entity to perform the design for us as well as the construction, where there's other techniques like the CMAR is we contract with the engineer separate and a contractor separate to bring them together. So it's just a different variation of that.
But a full design build is the alternative to progressive design build, where you don't have a design. The contractor just gives you a number and he designs and builds it all. We got to control what we designed and the contractor gave us a number at 90%. So it gave us more input on the design we got than going a full design build. So that's where the progressive comes
Okay,
from.
makes sense. Okay, thank you.
You all remember who the contractor is for the earthwork on these? Is it the same or different for each one? Do
It's the same. It's a single package.
you remember who it is?
Not top of our heads, no.
You remember that? Oh,
All right, thank you, Kinsey. Does someone want to read the motion?
I'll read it. I move the board approve a progressive design build contract amendment with Clark Construction Group LLC.
Or just Construction Group LLC, right? Is it not Clark?
With Clark Construction Group LLC. I'm just reading the motion here. No?
Okay, mine doesn't say that, but go ahead. That's what it is.
LLC for the Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project with a phase 2 cost of $58,398,884 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for the authorized budget ceiling not to exceed $61,318,000 without further board approval.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye, it's a lot of money.
All right.
Here, I think I brought it up, but CIP maybe the exceed amount exceeds the CIP budget number 60, and I'd like to give their manager display 60 million, 61 million.
Sure. So when you approve the CIP budget, what you're approving is that total dollar value of the entire CIP. I forget what it was this year. So if we go a little bit over here, we'll look to find savings. And as you know, we never spend 100% of our CIP. yeah, we'll move some money around to cover. You're welcome.
Okay, the approval of the task order professional advisory for phase 2 of the community systems ammonia removal. Do we need a presentation on that?
Mhm.
All right, someone want to read the motion? Mr. Kelly?
I guess I'll keep going. I move the board approve a task order for Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project Phase 1 Professional Advisor Services to Black and Beach for an estimated cost of $1,783,500 with 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $1,873,000. Additional costs will require board approval.
Seconded. Mr. Moody, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, no business, none. Information items, none. Monthly reports, financial summary monthly by Sally.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry, it's late. But I just wanted to mention that with these, Brian provided us a very helpful number, but it's like 2.5 times the cost of operationally to run these little package plants out in Western Loudon in comparison to the central service customers. That's on a per customer basis.
Mhm.
And just want to say that in the record as we're approving 60-some million here for roughly 1,000 customers, something like that, 1,100 customers.
It's basically $1,000 per customer in the central system, and it's 2,500 for the community system. So it's 2.5 times.
2.5x. So it's pretty significant, and just wanted to mention that.
Good point.
And the good news is we only have about 1,200 versus 82,000, but we don't want to continue down this path of adding these as much as we can avoid that.
Right. That's a substantial difference. Thank you for letting me interject. Sorry.
Sally here? There
Yep,
she is.
good
She's in-
afternoon.
She's in row 2 today.
Row 2. So these are your draft December numbers. We'll be back to you in May with the final ACFR once all of our entries are done for the audit. But just a quick view, you can see there that the biggest differences in revenue are in our non-operating, so availability fees and investment income here. And then expenses are coming under right now at 7.6 million under budget. Our ERCs came in at 4,907, and 54% of those were data centers. And then our CIP number, this might change a little bit also, but we'll come back to you with the final number, but we're at 80% of the mid-year review, so 130.9 million. Any other questions on December?
Anyone have any questions?
Sure.
Thank you. This is new, right? The legislative activities update by Mr. Peterson and Mr. View.
Hi, good afternoon, board members. So a little refresher. I believe last year was the first year we had, through some questions and encouragement from the board, we added an information item throughout this winter kind of period during the Virginia legislative session and updated each of the board meetings. And so we're going to continue that this year. You've got some information in the packet. A couple different things with this, and I'll run through. We set up a format of some slides here. We'll just go through some general information and get to some kind of highlights and priorities that are happening. And we have quite a few of us from the staff level involved through many of our associations and really participating in this. We've got the summary of some legislation and some position statements in there. And we'll just kind of go through here before we open up some questions. Reminder, this is the long session this year. It's been a changeover with Democrats controlling both the House and Senate and the new governor. And these are just a reminder of what the associations that we're participate in. And we have lead lobbyists from these associations that have been very active and keep us updated each week. And we've been participating in that process. So The dates, we're nearing next Tuesday is the crossover, kind of the halfway point. So there's been some movement and updates we'll share on a couple of the bills that have been introduced. So as we get to some highlights, now going back, most of you were in the Water Resource Committee meeting on Monday, and we spent some time particularly on several of the PFAS related bills that are in the mix this year, and primarily the biosolids bill. We've had some activity this week since then, and so we'll walk through a little bit of some activities. Just start, if you remember from Monday, actually the second one, 138, and there's several bills talking about monitoring regulations. And as we mentioned, Kendra mentioned this there, we've been very proactive and for several years been doing monitoring. So we have a good idea of our own status, and the monitoring regulations wouldn't have any impact on us because we've been doing much of that ourselves. With respect to the biosolids, there's two different bills, the 1443 on the House side, and there's a competing bill on the Senate side as well. And on Monday, we went through these in some good detail with the different thresholds following some of the other states, in particular Michigan format. And we mentioned there was a particular bill on the Senate side that was essentially a ban bill. And that has gotten some activity this week. That since Monday, when we met, the Agriculture and Conservation, one of the committees on the Senate side, had a hearing for that bill, and I believe that was on Tuesday. There was a substitute bill already that had been in some negotiation. Our lobbyists were in the room for that. And there was some change, a little movement in a better direction, moving a little closer toward having some thresholds and what that bill would look like. It wasn't a total ban as it had been when prior to that. However, the numbers on that and the thresholds were still not a workable situation. The timeframes that utilities would have to come into compliance were very aggressive. It really wasn't a workable situation. And so in that hearing, we had our lobbyists, we had several other groups, including VML, VACO, the Farm Bureau, the biosolids work group. And then we had 4 utilities around the Commonwealth, including ourselves. I testified, and we had a whole group testifying in opposition to that bill. And it was narrowly moved forward in an 8-7 vote, moved to the Finance Committee. So as of this afternoon, it's still out there. We felt like there was good commentary. We think there's good progress on that. A lot of our encouragement as a group was looking at this 1443 biosolids bill on the House side. There's been sort of a better process of negotiation. We've got what has been kind of referred to as a municipal compromise in that has been really some good movement, and we think a very fair kind of way of looking at that. So, we're going to continue to be very participative, in this, continue to bring this back on a monthly basis and share an update with you. But we think there's good progress, but we're not there yet. So I'll leave that one there before we get into unless there's any quick questions now. And we'll move into the next one. Elton's going to talk a little bit about the apprentice labor.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to talk a little bit about House Bill 1046 Senate Bill 324. I think these bills are a good example of, Mark flipped through a slide here representing, Mark sits on the board of VAMWA, Kendra, the Virginia Biosolids Council. I have a place on the board of the Virginia Water and Waste Authorities Association. And our group really helps span the gap of other elements of our business, more administrative, not necessarily dealing with, environmental regulations and sort of the treatment side of our business and so forth. And so this is a good example of that, a set of bills that was coming forward, looking at the VPPA and certain contracting requirements pertaining to labor on capital projects. These sets of bills, they really covered such things as contractors and subcontractors on capital projects, complying with safety training requirements, OSHA regulations, maintaining a good safety record as a business, as an entity. There's also a good proportion of these bills that deal with trying to eliminate the overuse of independent contractors instead of subcontractors and effectively skirting taxes and employment laws and things that would protect workers. And then last but not least, the bill had a very big focus on apprentice labor on capital projects. And in their earlier forms, these bills proposed certain percentages of apprentice labor in the 8 to 15% range. And we really, as an industry, felt that's untenable. We work with some of our contracting partners to understand if we're going to oppose this, are we, moving in the right direction? And they tell us of not being able to find that level of apprentice labor to actually participate in the capital project. So you may be wondering, what was the overarching goal of this legislation? Is really to strengthen labor stability in the Commonwealth for our capital projects. Obviously, through COVID and then, in our area, the boom with data centers and so forth, that there was a lot of concern with labor for projects. So, good interests at heart with this legislation, but we've managed to help steer it in the right direction. Again, our industry groups were taking more of an opposition position and have helped really steer this. The more recent developments subsequent to the publishing of the report that's attached to this item, there's been a paring back of the apprentice labor requirements. So the percentages have gone away, and it's just one apprentice per project, and it's now any project larger than $5 million. So something that's achievable, but it also set up a work group in the Commonwealth to study this further, and we expect more legislation coming forward in future years. But this work group's going to look at the financial implications of these more strenuous requirements on apprentice labor. And so that's really the gist of these bills and their evolution. We'll probably have more to report next month, but be happy to take any questions.
We actually have one additional, Mr. Vega had a question about a bill related to condemnation, and John had a little bit of some information to update on that one.
I appreciate you bringing this more. It's Senate Bill 342. It's been passed by the Senate. It would modify the Virginia eminent domain code with respect to takings across conservation or open spaces. It's sponsored by our senator, Senator Perry, who's been an advocate on the particular issue. The driver behind it is Senator Perry's concern that utilities, particularly Dominion and others, engage in what they call predatory routing. So when you look at a map, you try and figure out this is the theory behind it. Where's the least valuable properties? And sometimes people value open space or conservation easements as less valuable properties for less restrictive nature on it. And so her view is that causes a disproportionate impact on which should otherwise be protected. And so the bill requires, if it's passed, and it's passed the Senate, but if it becomes law, it would require a condemnor to reimburse the state and the county in which the easement, beneficiaries of the easement, for any avoided taxes. So they typically benefit from reduced taxes. And so the condemnor would pay whatever the value is of the take, and then they pay the county and the state for any avoided taxes. That's sort of the interesting or unusual aspect of that is there's no time limit on it. So it would apply to all open space or conservation easements all the way back to whatever point they exist. I think some go back to issue, and all taxes. And so you would pay the proportionate a value of the taxes avoided. So for example, on a $1 million parcel, if you came through and took, or if $1 million parcel and taxes avoided were 200,000 and you took 10% of that, you pay $20,000 on top of the value. So that's the concept there. There's been opposition by Dominion and Appalachian Power. There's been mild concern raised by the Virginia Association of Counties and the Virginia Municipal League because it creates what they say is an unfunded mandate. One of the administrative challenges would be to figure out what are the unpaid taxes over a period of time. And they say that's not easily found in any public record. So when Dominion or VDOT or somebody goes through, somebody at the county and state level has to calculate that and share it. So they say that's an unfunded mandate. There's also concern, there's a financial impact study done, but the conclusion was it was indeterminate whether this would be a net positive or negative. So will the county, because the county is a big condemnor, much more so than say us, and the state, VDOT is a condemnor. Is it a negative for them? Will they end up paying more money? There's also a problem with sort of predictability of budget, because even if the county condemns property, the result is that they pay themselves, this avoided tax, but it has to be allocated for additional conservation uses. So there's some question about how you budget this. As it relates to us, and I think Alton can speak to this, I don't think we have a lot of projects that are going through open space or conservation areas. But if this passes and if we do, we would pay the fair market value of the taking, and then we'd have to reimburse the county and the state for the taxes avoided from the inception of that easement through the date of take. And the theory behind it, again, is that there's two purposes. One is the take will extinguish the conservation or open space easement. It'll extinguish it. So it won't exist anymore as to the land that's taken. And so the senator's view is the public should be reimbursed for the loss of that asset, which is the conservation piece. And the other is to encourage, condemnors to stop routing in these areas. So that's where it stands. I don't know. I've tried to get a little insight on whether it's likely to pass the House or not, but that's where it stands.
My concern is that, where many of our systems are gravity driven. And there usually going to be a floodplains where many of the properties could be in open space. Also, as we look at the Clark's Gap corridor, and we're talking about Peonian Springs going to Waterford, more than half of the properties are in conservation easement.
Well, that was something touched on a little bit by the VML, is particular impact on infrastructure like water lines, for the reason that you gave. Now it's very light on it. I wouldn't know if it would even be opposition. It was something that they noted, but we could be impacted, by this.
Yeah, and Mr. Vega, we definitely appreciated, you asking some questions about this one, because it's caused us to dig a little deeper. I think in the case of Waterford and Peonian, we're fortunate in that what John was explaining in some of the municipalities and counties reaction and so forth to this is going to cost us more than we're going to benefit. With that project, the county is acquiring the easements for the pipelines and the connections. We also took a look at, our central service area, to what extent do we have conservation easements here and versus open space, and then how might we work on the logistics of that if and when to your very point, sewers through in central service area likely going to go through open space easements granted to the county. So we were talking with John a bit about, how would we navigate that with the county, and what would really be the true implications for us under this legislation? Would we be able to work something out, with the county on this?
And I think one of the challenges of the bill for us is it doesn't distinguish between condemnors or projects. So VDOT going through an open space easement has a different visual and other impact on that land than one of our pipes going underground. And the bill assumes that all of the conservation benefit is extinguished, is the word I think they use, is extinguished by the project without regard to what the project is. Our impact and footprint is very different than a highway or an overhead transmission line. but no distinction is made.
Are we weighing in on that at all through one of our lobbyists, or we're just kind of staying out of this one?
Well, it's definitely something that we've flagged with, like, as I said before, VWWAA is really often focused in on these types of things that are at the periphery of our business. So we're talking to them about, what we can continue to monitor on this and influence.
Yeah, if they were going to do it, it would make more sense to distinguish between what's going on for one. And then, they ought to do like rollback taxes. It's the last 5 years, or pick 10 or pick 15 or whatever, but that's such a difference. Sometimes those easements are extremely old.
Yeah, that's I think the main concern even raised by the counties is, one, is how do you figure that out, calculate it? And two, it can be a huge penalty. So when we or other utilities are planning their project, it'd be very difficult. You guys look at these budgets going way up to actually put a realistic budget on that, not knowing what the taxes are, for how long, or if they've been interrupted,
Yeah.
been in and out of an easement sometimes. So I do think it makes it challenging.
One other point is, we've talked about Western Loudon in a variety of ways and formats over the last year or so. And if we end up being the authority that's serving potentially areas that are not currently under our service area, there's a lot of conservation easements in Western Loudon. So we could be catching a falling knife of acquisition risk.
Yeah, I think one estimate said it may triple the cost depending on where you go and what the tax rollback has been and for how long. And as the other possible unintended consequence that's been pointed out is actually pushing. So it may have, if the purpose is to cause condemners to avoid these open space and conservation, that may happen because of the cost, but then it moves somewhere that may be populated, or, there's a reason, not just land value, that people go into open space. It can be less intrusive. But I don't have any sense of whether it's likely to pass or not. I couldn't get any insight on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for
That is it, unless
All
there are
right.
any other questions. We'll be back next month.
I think we're good. Does anyone have any questions? All right, Water Resource Management Report, Jessica Edwards Brandt.
Let's see. All right. We're just still in a regional drought status mode right now. I project that we'll be out of that as soon as it warms up, which hopefully will be this weekend. Potomac's looking good, although looking normal-ish. We did, because of all the ice, the USGS gauge froze. It remains frozen. So we had to do a little bit of estimating on the flow. If you have any questions on that, just let me know. This is the historical reference for the Potomac River. The precipitation did improve a little bit from last month. So that's looking good and was a normal status. Regional drought, obviously that was watched, as I just mentioned. Goose Creek, looking good. Surprisingly, that gauge did not freeze. So I think they're just the way that it's positioned within the stream body. Yeah. And Beaver Dam's good. Any questions?
Apparently, the last time the Potomac froze all the way over was 1975. What it was reported.
Did we freeze all the way over?
Oh yeah, it's frozen solid. I mean, yes, I'm sure there are spots of the Potomac that are not frozen solid, but there are many areas that are. And there's been some people out there ice skating and walking around. The ice is thick.
And our intake is fine,
Our intake is fine. Yes, we've got a robust air bursting system out there, and the operators have been really great with keeping that going, and maintenance has been great about everything, keeping that going too. So it's looking good.
Good. All right, we should have had a skating party. Fun. All right, thank you. Community systems.
Thank you, Chair. We continue to improve the format of the report. You can notice now that we kind of brought that regional state level stuff first, and we're going to filter down to what matters to us, which is Loudoun Water. So starting off today, we have the regional information. Loudoun County is still in severe drought per drought.gov. and that this is a little older. It actually came out today and there's a little more orange on the chart, but Northern Virginia is still in warning with precipitation now in warning, groundwater still in emergency, flow in emergency, and reservoirs in normal. Just a quick friendly reminder, last time we talked about the way the state views that data and they filter it down to kind of encourage all localities to start kind of putting a critical eye to their water resources and taking next steps so that it's continually reviewed at the state level and issued out to local governments to take action or to position themselves appropriately as needed. When it comes to community systems, much the same, still Raspberry Falls Selma State is still an overall watch. That is for water levels are stable but gradually declining, and local precipitation is under watch mainly due to the multi-year drought we're in. We did start the year off right with that snowstorm. We do have increased precipitation. We're above normal right now, but we have not seen that melt become recharged just yet. So we're hesitant to show it any further than just that. And we're continually still in that drought. This chart has changed since last time you saw it. We're starting a new year, so we're going to go back to the 4 peaks as it builds throughout. Raspberry Falls, Selma Estates usage still remains kind of per seasonal and still remains at low. And keep in mind, last time we touched on the subject that Selma Estates wells are performing really well. They are green, where the Raspberry ones are the little ones, a little bit more of concern. They're in yellow, but there is no operational restrictions. We're keeping a close eye on them. And it really has to do with which wells are being recharged by rain events. Raspberry, for some reason, has not seen as much rain as Selma, even though they're relatively close. And finally, we continue our conservation measures in the community, and there are no restrictions in any of our systems. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. We're on to quarterly reports, the BOA quarterly reports. Oh, by Hui Tran, I'm sorry. Water and sewer agreements. Sorry, Hui.
No worries. There's just one agreement that I'd like to bring the board's attention to. It's bottom of the second page. Under 12. Back up one. Yep, there you go. So number 12 is a developer agreement that's reimbursable that we entered into with the developer the agreement was signed at the end of December. This particular project is for the JMLA East Water and Sewer Main. This is a significant project that extends about 3.5 miles of water and about 2 miles of sewer into the Leesburg JMLA, and it'll allow for Loudon Water to serve the JMLA. This is a kind of culmination of multiple years of discussions with this particular developer to take on the design and construction of this project. We started discussions with this particular developer in 2021. And so this is kind of a culmination of the design, construction, easement acquisition for that particular project. This particular developer agreement was custom. It does include such things like as a $3.1 million developer advance, and it does include a monthly construction payments.
How big are those payments?
It's going to vary based on how much the contractor constructs, but right now their schedule is basically a 2-year construction. The total project cost is just under $36 million. And so, I don't think it's not necessarily linear, but they'll just start on the sewer and then start with the, finish with the water. So.
And who's DMM?
DMM Tuscarora is led by Mr. Michael Capretti.
Oh.
He's the developer for the Tuscarora Crossing.
Yep. Great.
Does anyone have any more questions? All right, thank you, Lee.
I still think it's great we do this. I know it's a pain in the butt, but I think it's great that we do these developer agreements and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I know other authorities don't and stuff, but I think it's a good idea.
Quarterly reports. the BOA by Savita.
Hi, yeah, this is the fourth quarter BOA report for last year. And so in Q4, we issued 14 new task orders totaling just under $5.4 million, and they were issued to 5 different firms. A few of the more notable ones did come to the CIP committee, including a design for upsizing our water main along Belmont Ridge, starting our design on Trap Rock for the expansion, and then some work related to Broad Run. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you. Back to Hui, Land Development Activity Report, quarterly.
So the ERCs on the first page, Sally went over with the ERCs, so I'm going to skip to the second page. A couple of things to note for the board. New plan submissions. We finished with a record high in terms of number of plans that we received last year in 2025. And then similarly down in plans approved, we also had a record number of plans that we approved. So we had well over 30% higher than the previous year in terms of the output or the plans approved that our land development group was able to approve. For the construction permits, we also had, a good amount of activity and under the construction.
Have we been able to fill our openings there, or you still looking to hire some people?
No, currently we still have, right now we have three openings. So
Just can't find anybody.
it's can be a challenge.
We've had those positions open for a little while, right? Am I wrong about that?
A couple of them, one is a new open position. We have someone leaving, so we're going to backfill. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But this year's looking like it's going to be another year of a lot of plan review.
We'll see. I mean, I think that last year we had a significant amount of activity due to the data centers. And with the new restrictions that Loudoun County has put on data centers, we'll see if that trend continues or not.
So we might see a little bit less, maybe, possibly.
I'm predicting that we may see less. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And then just one last note, staff will be bringing forward to the board some minor revisions to this quarterly report. So in the first quarter of 2026, we'll have a little modified report. A lot of the same information, but we'll make some improvements. Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions for we?
Thank you.
Thank you. Operations and Maintenance Quarterly Report by Kendra.
Nothing to report, but if you have any questions.
Right, no questions. And then the all-important safety report by Mr. Shunta. That was a good year.
It was a good year, best year we've had since
Knocking on
2022.
wood.
So knock on wood, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, but that looks great. That's always good news.
I was at a party last weekend, and this gentleman, he's in Brambleton, but he ran architecture for Disney for 40 years. And so they sent me a video of 1950s. They're building one of these theme parks, and guys are tiptoeing across beams, and they've got a big excavator with like a big piece on it, and it tips over, and the guy rolls out. And I just thought, man, the world has changed a lot since 1950, and all the safety protocols that we have and things. And so it's just interesting to see how much things have changed in relatively a short period of time.
Something about that. I should build that. In Florida, within I think it was a year time frame, something.
It was something ridiculous.
So
Yeah.
Right, they were avoiding all kinds of safety protocols.
And people just ran like that back then. I mean, they didn't, they didn't think anything of it, I guess. I don't know. It was interesting.
The good old days.
Yeah. Or you make a wrong step and you lose your foot.
Yeah.
It was not around.
Yeah, no.
All right, well, that concludes the open portion of our meeting today. We do have a closed session. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you.